The fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead as Marcus shifted his son Tommy in his arms. The hospital corridor stretched endlessly before them, white walls gleaming under the harsh brightness. Tommy's small fingers clutched his Superman shirt, the fabric wrinkled from their long night in the emergency room. Marcus felt the weight of exhaustion settling into his shoulders. 3 years of single parenthood had taught him many things, but moments like this still left him feeling helpless. Tommy had been running a fever for 2 days, and when it spiked to 103 that morning, Marcus knew he couldn't wait any longer. The pediatric wing buzzed with quiet activity. Nurses moved with practiced efficiency, their soft-soled shoes squeaking against the polished linoleum. The smell of antiseptic hung in the air, mixing with the faint aroma of coffee from the nearby break room. Marcus had always found hospitals intimidating, but today they represented hope. "Daddy, my tummy hurts," Tommy whispered, his voice small and tired. His blonde hair was damp with sweat, and his usually bright blue eyes seemed dulled by illness. "I know, buddy," Marcus murmured, pressing a gentle kiss to his son's forehead. The fever was still there, radiating heat against his lips. "The doctors are going to help you feel better, okay?" Tommy nodded weakly and rested his head against Marcus's chest. The simple trust in that gesture made Marcus's throat tighten with emotion. Ever since Sarah left when Tommy was just 6 months old, it had been just the two of them. Marcus had learned to braid hair, pack lunch boxes, and read bedtime stories. But medical emergencies still terrified him. They had been waiting for nearly 2 hours. The emergency room doctor had examined Tommy, ordered blood tests, and assured Marcus that while the fever was concerning, it wasn't immediately dangerous. Now they were waiting for the pediatric specialist who would determine the next steps. Marcus adjusted Tommy's position in his arms, feeling his son's small body growing heavier with sleep. The Superman cape attached to Tommy's shirt had come loose on one side, and Marcus gently smoothed it back into place. It was Tommy's favorite outfit, worn so often that the red fabric had faded to a soft pink. A soft chime echoed through the hallway as the elevator doors opened at the far end of the corridor. Marcus glanced up absently, then returned his attention to Tommy, who was stirring slightly in his arms. The sound of heels clicking against the floor grew closer. Marcus looked up again to see a woman walking toward them with confident, measured steps. She wore a tailored navy blue suit that spoke of authority and success. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a sleek bun, and she carried herself with the kind of poise that suggested she was accustomed to being in charge. There was something familiar about her profile, something that made Marcus's pulse quicken with a recognition he couldn't quite place. The woman was checking something on her tablet, her attention focused on the screen as she approached. Tommy lifted his head from Marcus's chest, blinking sleepily. His gaze followed Marcus's, landing on the approaching figure. For a moment, Tommy just stared, his small face scrunched in concentration as if trying to solve a puzzle. Then, with the sudden clarity that only children possess, Tommy's eyes widened. His small hand shot out, pointing directly at the woman. "That's Mommy," he said, his voice cutting through the quiet murmur of the hospital corridor. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. His arms tightened instinctively around Tommy as his mind raced to process what his son had just said. The woman stopped walking, her head snapping up from her tablet. Her eyes met Marcus's across the distance, and the recognition was instant and mutual. Sarah. She looked different. Gone was the uncertain young woman who had struggled with motherhood, replaced by someone who radiated confidence and success. But it was unmistakably her. The same green eyes, the same delicate features that Tommy had inherited. For several heartbeats, neither of them moved. The hospital corridor seemed to fade away, leaving only the three of them suspended in a moment that felt both impossible and inevitable. Sarah's professional composure cracked slightly. Her tablet slipped in her hands, and she caught it against her chest. Her gaze shifted from Marcus to Tommy, and something vulnerable flickered across her features. Tommy, seemingly unaware of the tension crackling between the adults, waved his small hand. "Hi, Mommy," he said with the simple directness of a 3-year-old who had just spotted someone he recognized. Sarah took a hesitant step forward, then stopped. Her eyes were fixed on Tommy's face, taking in every detail as if memorizing them. When she spoke, her voice was softer than Marcus remembered. "Hello, Tommy," she said quietly. The sound of her voice saying their son's name sent a jolt through Marcus. 3 years of carefully buried emotions threatened to surface. He had imagined this moment countless times, but never like this. Never in a hospital corridor with their sick child in his arms. "Sarah," Marcus managed, his voice hoarse with surprise and something else he couldn't name. She nodded, still staring at Tommy. Marcus. Her professional facade was slipping more with each passing second. Is everything okay? The genuine concern in her voice caught Marcus off guard. Despite everything, despite the years of silence, she was worried about Tommy. He has a fever, Marcus explained, his protective instincts warring with his confusion. We've been waiting to see the pediatric specialist. Sarah's expression shifted into something more clinical, more professional. Dr. Jennifer Matthews, she said. That's who you're waiting for? Marcus nodded, wondering how she knew. I'm Drive, Sarah Chen now, she said quietly. I'm the chief executive officer here. The information hit Marcus like another wave. CEO. The woman who had left because she couldn't handle motherhood was now running a hospital. The irony wasn't lost on him. Tommy, who had been listening to the exchange with the patients that fever sometimes brings, spoke up again. Mommy, I don't feel good. The simple statement seemed to break something in Sarah. Her professional mask slipped completely, revealing the woman Marcus had once known. She took another step closer, her hand reaching out instinctively before she caught herself. Can I? She asked, looking between Marcus and Tommy. Marcus hesitated, every protective instinct screamed against it. But Tommy was already reaching toward her, and Marcus couldn't deny his son's obvious desire for comfort. Okay, he said softly. Sarah closed the remaining distance between them. When she was close enough, she gently placed her hand on Tommy's forehead, checking his temperature the way Marcus had seen her do when Tommy was a baby. He's burning up, she murmured, her voice thick with concern. The doctor said it's not dangerous, Marcus said quickly. But they want the specialist to see him. Sarah nodded, her hand still resting on Tommy's head. Tommy leaned into the touch with a contentment that made Marcus's heart ache. I can make sure Drive. Matthews sees him right away, Sarah said, already reaching for her phone. As she made the call, Marcus watched her carefully. This wasn't the same woman who had packed her bags 3 years ago, claiming she wasn't cut out for motherhood. But it wasn't entirely someone new, either. He could see traces of the Sarah he had loved in the gentle way she spoke to Tommy, in the concern that colored her voice as she spoke to the doctor. Within minutes, Drive, Matthews appeared. She was a kind woman in her 50s with graying hair and warm eyes. She examined Tommy thoroughly, asked detailed questions, and finally delivered the news Marcus had been hoping for. It's a viral infection, she explained. Unpleasant, but not serious. He'll need rest, fluids, and time. The fever should break within the next day or two. The relief that flooded through Marcus was overwhelming. He felt his knees go weak as the tension he'd been carrying finally released. Sarah had stayed throughout the examination, standing quietly to one side. Now, as Dr. Matthews left, an awkward silence settled between them. Thank you, Marcus said finally. For expediting everything. Sarah nodded. Of course. She paused, then added quietly, he's beautiful, Marcus. You've done an amazing job. The compliment caught him off guard. Thank you, he said again, not sure what else to say. Tommy, now that his fever was beginning to respond to the medication, was becoming more alert. He looked between his parents with the observational skills of a 3-year-old trying to understand adult emotions. Are you coming home with us, Mommy? He asked with innocent hope. The question hung in the air like a challenge neither adult was prepared to face. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She quickly blinked away. Not tonight, sweetheart, she said gently. But maybe I could visit you sometime. If that's okay with Daddy. She looked at Marcus questioningly. 3 years of anger and hurt warred with the memory of how she had just helped their son. How she had shown up when Tommy needed her, even if it was by chance. Marcus looked down at Tommy, who was watching both parents with hopeful eyes. His son deserved to know his mother, even if Marcus wasn't sure he was ready to forgive her. Maybe we could start with that, he said carefully. Sarah's smile was tremulous but genuine. I'd like that very much. As they prepared to leave, Sarah walked them to the elevator. Tommy waved goodbye from Marcus's arms, and Sarah waved back, her professional composure finally giving way to the tears she had been holding back. The elevator doors closed, but not before Marcus caught a glimpse of Sarah standing alone in the corridor, watching them disappear. For the first time in 3 years, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, they could find a way forward together.